חס וחלילה. You know what he told him? This no good, this no good, this no good, this no good. יאללה.
Too young, too old.
יאללה, ריצ'רד גיר, יאללה.
He's got...
Like Moroccan woman the best. יאללה.
He's so picky.
Tell him to ask you and him. What is that? Picky. Like he's 20. יאללה, אלן דלון. Talk to him. Want to introduce him to somebody. I'm scared.
Okay, you ready? Let's go. Okay, so welcome. We haven't studied in some time.
You were sick last week, I think.
Yep.
We're not feeling you.
Okay, so there are times when you feel that everything around you is collapsing. Society. Values start to become blurred. Things that you know. Boundaries are broken, right? And the leadership is nowhere to be found. Silent. No one's saying anything. And you're just seeing everything just go more and more. What's the word?
Silent?
Not silent. Digressing, like collapsing.
Yeah.
And people just do whatever they want, whatever they're comfortable of doing.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right? Suddenly, one person gets up and he says, die, enough. Right? He doesn't wait for anyone to tell him what to do or for waiting for the go-ahead. He's certain. He knows the truth. He's not easily swayed by public opinion. He's not, as they would say today, politically correct. Doesn't care for politically correct. He's not worried about public pressure. He doesn't ask WIFM. You know what the tune into WIFM means?
No.
Tune into what's in it for me. You never heard of that station?
No.
Now you have.
It's my favorite station.
Right? WIFM. Right? He doesn't ask what's in it for me. And as soon as the moment of truth arises, he acts. He acts not because he wants to be a big shot, not because he wants to, not because he wants to, in fact, he would rather not, but he does it. He does it out of responsibility. He does it because he genuinely cares. He does it out of faith.
Like Moses.
Hold on, not like Moses.
Not like...
This is the story of Pinchas.
Okay.
Pinchas is a story of courage, a story of devotion, a story of how he brought about change, not from leadership, not from above, but from the grassroots, the common people. And because of that, him, not Moses, gets a reward. And you know what the greatest reward is? He gets to be eternal covenant. He gets to be a Kohen.
Like you?
Some people are lucky enough that they get born to be a Kohen. But this, you know the story of the guy who comes to the rabbi and he says, Rabbi, I need you to make me a Kohen. She says, I'm sorry, my friend Joe, I can't make you a Kohen. He says, okay, Rabbi, I know your type. Here's $1,000 donation to the synagogue, make me a Kohen. She says, you know, as much money as you give me is very nice, but I can't make you a Kohen. So he says,
Moshe,
okay.
there's a message from Daniel. Do you see it?
No. What does it say?
Somebody send me the doc.
I'll have to send him afterwards.
Oh, okay. I've sent it there just because instead of interrupting.
Okay.
Then, yeah.
All right. So she says, make me. She says, okay, I'll give you $5,000. She says, it's very nice. We need the money, but I can't make you a Kohen. He says, $10,000. Rabbi, that's final offer. He says, tell me something. Why do you want to be a Kohen so much? He says, I'll tell you why. My father was a Kohen. His father was a Kohen.
Oh, he declined.
So the rabbi said, shut.
You're a Kohen.
You're a Kohen. We'll take your $10,000. Right? All right. But you'll see now that Pinchas, even though he was born a Kohen, this was the time before.
Stand up.
No, he was a descendant of Aaron. He was Aaron's grandson, but he wasn't. The descendants of Aaron all became Kohen once Aaron was already appointed to be the Kohen Gadol. Being that Pinchas was born prior to that, even though he was born into the family, it didn't apply to him. But after the story, God granted him the privilege of being the greatest gift of being a
So
Kohen.
he's older than Aaron?
No, he was a grandson of Aaron, but when Aaron was appointed Kohen, all his descendants from then were automatically Kohanim. But if they had already been born, they're not necessarily were they Kohanim, because only those that were appointed. Huh?
That wasn't fair.
No, Aaron was appointed with his sons, but it didn't go to everyone at the time.
If he'd been in America, he'd have sued.
Right, for this discrimination. So why? Now Moses didn't get that gift. Why him alone? What was so special of what he did? So let's look at the story. Source number one. Charles, you want to start reading? But before you start, let me just put it into historical perspective. Remember last week's Torah portion, Balaam, the king of Moab. The king of Moab, Balak, wanted to defeat the Jewish people. He saw that God's on their side, so the only way he was a little bit cleverer than the Iranians and the thing to realize to start up with the Jewish people, right? He realized that the only way he's going to defeat the Jewish people if God curses the Jewish people. So he appoints a prophet that had prophecy, that was able to communicate with God. God did allow that to other people whose name was Bilam, right? Bilam. And Bilam lands up, as we learn, those that want to curse us land up blessing us. Those that bless us will be blessed. Okay, so he's very disappointed. Now, he goes home, and then being that he failed on that point, he tries something else which does succeed. What does he do? He tries to make the Jewish people spiritually fail, and that is by sending women for them to sin with.
Wow.
Right? And unfortunately, the people fell. They failed. Look at source number one. So the Talmud tells us what happens when Bilam went home and Balak, and what does Balak do? Okay, source number one.
I don't have it.
In front of you. You
No.
don't see?
No. Not on my screen.
Why not?
Good question.
Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Jet's going to say that loud while I try.
Balaam said to them, the God of these Jewish people despises lewdness, and they desire linen garments, and they have no new garments. Come, and I will give you advice. Make them enclosures using wall hangings and seat prostitutes in them, with an old woman outside the enclosure and a young woman inside, and have the women sell them linen garments. Balak made them enclosures using the wall hangings from the Chermom mountain until Beit Ha-Yeshimot, and he sat prostitutes in them, with an old woman outside and a young woman inside. At the time when Jewish people were eating and drinking and glad and going out to stroll in the marketplace, the old woman would say to the Jew, aren't you seeking linen garments? They would enter the enclosure, ask the price, and the old woman would quote a price equal to its value, and the young woman would quote him a price less than its value. The scenario would repeat itself 2 or 3 times, and thereafter she would say to him, "You are like a member of our household. Sit and choose for yourself the merchandise you want." A jug of Ammonite wine was placed near her. Neither Ammonite wine nor Gentile wine had been prohibited yet for Jews. She said to him, "Do you want to drink a cup of wine?" Once he drank the wine, his evil inclinations burned within him. He said to her, "Submit to me and engage in relations with me." She then removed the idol that she worshipped from his lap and said to him, "Worship this." He said to her, "Am I not Jewish? I am forbidden from engaging in idol worship." She said to him, "What is your concern? All we are asking is that you defecate in its presence." Defecate?
Yeah, that's how they used to serve idols. Yeah,
Defecate means crap in its presence. Wow.
that's how they used to. That was their service.
That is a sign of respect.
Yeah, that's what they used to do.
The Jew didn't know that its worship is conducted in that manner. Once he did so, she said to him, "Moreover, I will not leave you until you deny the Torah of Moses, your teacher." But then they came to Baal Peor. They separated themselves to the shameful item, and they became detestable, like that which they loved. This means that they devoted themselves to the disgrace of defecation and detested the name of God. With regard to the verse, "And Israel dwelt in Shittim," Rabbi Eliezer says Shittim is the name of the place. Rabbi Yeshua says it is an allusion to the fact that they were engaged in matters of nonsense,
Shittim.
prostitution,
Shtut.
shatut, prostitution, and idol worship.
Yeah,
Shtuyot.
shtuyot.
Bullshit.
And they
Prostitute means prostitute?
shtut means folly, like
BS.
nonsense.
Oh,
Maybe it means shit because it's defecate.
Maybe that's where it comes from. All right, that's the Talmud. Do you see the? Do you see it now?
yes.
Okay. So source number 2. That was in the Talmud. In the Torah, the Torah says it a lot more brief. The Talmud gave us a little bit more behind the scenes. And source number 2, Charles reads source number 2.
Okay. Israel settled in Shittim, and the people began to engage in immoral behavior with the daughters of Moab. These women invited the people to participate in the sacrificial rites of their gods. The people ate and bowed down to their gods. Israel became attached to Baal Peor, and the wrath of God flared against Israel. God said to Moses, "Take all the leaders of the people and hang them before God, facing the sun, so that the burning anger of God may be turned away from Israel." Moses said to the judges of Israel, "Each of you shall kill the men who became attached to Baal Peor."
The Baal Peor was the idol worship that they worshipped. Okay, so after this explicit commandment from God, they had the courts, they had hearing testimonies of people that engaged in this worship, this idol worship, and who would get the death sentence for acting accordingly. And at that point, the sinners from the tribe of Shimon panicked, right? And they ran to their leader, the prince of Shimon, and said in fear, "They're going to kill us. Do something." And he decided to take a drastic step, and he tried to legitimize their actions. So look at source number 3. Go, Jeff.
Then an Israelite man came and brought the Midianite women to his brethren before the eyes of Moses and before the eyes of the entire congregation of the children of Israel. They were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting.
So the Talmud explains, so that's in the Torah itself. What happened, this guy publicly brought a woman into his tent before everyone, even before Moses. So look at the Gemara explains behind the scenes what happened. Source number 4, Jeff.
The tribe of Simeon went to Zimri, son of Salu, their leader, and said to them, "They are judging cases of capital law and executing us, and you are sitting and are silent? What did Zimri do? He arose and gathered 24,000 people from the children of Israel and went to Cosbi, daughter of Zur, princess of Midian, and said to her, 'Submit to me and engage in relations with me.' She said to him, 'I am the daughter of a king, and this is what my father commanded me. Submit only to the greatest of them.' Zimri said to her, he too, referencing to himself, is the head of a tribe, moreover. He is greater than Moses, and he is the second of the womb, as he descends from Simeon, the second son of Jacob, and Moses is the third of the womb, and he descends from Levi, the third son of Jacob. He seized her by the hair and brought her before Moses. Zimri said to Moses, son of Amram, 'Is this woman forbidden or permitted? And if you say that she is forbidden, as for the daughter of Jethro, to whom you are married, who permitted her to you?' Of course, at this time, the Torah had not yet been given.
Right? So he tried to legitimize it. So he took their greatest woman in front of 24,000 people. He brought her into the tent and in front of Moses. He said, 'Son of Amram,' which it was disrespectful, but he said, 'Son of Amram,' which he was the son of Amram. He says, is this permitted or not? And Moses says, obviously it's not. He says, well, then why did you take a daughter of Jethro, which was, again, that was before the Torah was given, right?
Right.
So what, and he brought her into the tent. Moses was silent. He brought her into the tent and everyone saw it, right? In other words, trying to legitimize the whole idol worship and the whole taking of these prostitutes, etc., etc. Source number 5, Charles, what did Pinchas do at that moment?
Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the Cohen, saw this. He rose from the congregation and took a spear in his hand. He went after the Israelite man into the chamber and drove it through both of them. The Israelite man and the woman through her stomach, and the plague ceased from the children of Israel. Those that died in the plague numbered 24,000. Sure.
Yeah. You know the story? It sounds a bit like Game of Thrones a little bit, huh?
Or gladiator.
He took a spear and went through this Zimri's son of Zimri's stomach and the woman's stomach. Right?
It only says through the woman's stomach. What did they do to the man?
Both.
No, it doesn't say that, really.
And drove it through both of them.
Yeah, but it says the woman through her stomach.
No, it says-
Israelite and the woman through her.
It says it drove it through both of them. The Israelite man.
Oh, maybe not
and-
through his stomach, but it went through her
That's
stomach.
what I mean.
Right. But he killed both of them.
Yeah.
Okay, look at the Talmud. For again, behind the scenes. Source number 6, Charles.
Rabbi Yitzchak said in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, Pinchas saw that an angel came and wreaked destruction among the people in punishment for the sin of Zimri. And he realized that he must take immediate action to ameliorate the situation. Pinchas removed the blade of the spear and placed it in his garment and held the shaft of the spear like a walking stick. And he was walking, leaning on his walking stick, the shaft of the spear. Once he reached the tribe of Shimon, he said, "Where did we find the tribe of Levi is greater than that of Shimon? If all the members of your tribe submit to the temptation of the woman of Moab, I may do so as well. After hearing that statement, the members of the tribe of Simon said, "Allow him to enter, like us. He too is entering to attend to his needs and engage in relations with a Moabite woman." They rejoiced and said, "Apparently, the pious and God-fearing have permitted this matter, as Pinchas is one of them."
You see,
Pinchas came,
what the sinners were trying to do is to say that Pinchas, who is a grandson of Aaron, right, who comes from the tribe of Levi, who is a Kohen himself, is also coming to sin and join. So we all good, right? It's all
right?
good. It's not a sin.
Pinchas came and slammed them on the ground before God and said before him, "Master of the universe, will 24,000 of the children of Israel fall due to these sinners?
Fail.
As it is stated, and those that died in the plague were 24,000. And that is the meaning of that which is written. And Pinchas stood and wrought judgment, and the plague was halted."
Okay. That was actually last week's Torah portion. That's how it ended. And this week's Torah portion begins with source number 7, because following this whole story, God says to Moses, Charles, just finish off source number 7.
God spoke to Moses, saying, "Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the Cohen, has turned my anger away from the children of Israel by his zealously avenging me among them, so that I did not destroy the children of Israel because..."
Oh,
Okay, "of my zeal. Therefore say, I hereby give him my covenant of peace. It shall be for him and for his descendants after him as an eternal covenant of kahuna, priesthood, because he was zealous for his God and atoned for the children of Israel."
look at Rashi.
Although the priesthood had already been granted to the descendants of Aaron, this only applied to Aaron and his offspring born after he was anointed. Pinchas was born before, and thus not part of the priesthood until now. The Talmud says, Zavachim 101, Pinchas was not a Kohen until he killed Zimri.
Right? So there's the story, black and white, fascinating story. Now, Pinchas is called, like we said before, a zealot, because he took matters in his own hand. He didn't wait for Moses. He didn't wait for a court. He didn't wait for a judge. And in moments like this, where it was done publicly, I mean, generally, we don't just let people go and kill someone if they see it's wrong. But in such a defiant act, which took the whole nation, and the whole nation was looking and seeing and evaluating from this act what was right and what was wrong. And Pinchas is the only one that got up, and he therefore got rewarded, and he did do something right. He did get to kill them in front of everyone and not to wait for the judgment and all, because he took that moment. And that was the zealot moment, right? איך אומרים? Kanoi.
Kanai.
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 You know that word?
Mhm.
No, it's okay. That's the story. So the Rebbe asks a very important question. And that is, this is a tremendous gift that Pinchas earned. How come Moses, and because he saved the Jewish people, he saved them from from what was going down, and the slaughter, and the plague. He stopped the plague. Moses, the leader of the Jewish people, how many times do we read in the Torah that he saved the entire Jewish people? Many. We're going to see 3 occasions. How come Moses was never awarded with becoming a Kohen? That's the Rebbe's question. What was unique by Pinchas that he got this reward, but Moses, we don't see this reward. Okay, let's look at inside. The Rebbe says in this week's Torah portion, we are told that Pinchas turned my anger away from the children of Israel by his zealously avenging me among them, so that I did not destroy the children of Israel because of my zeal, my anger. As a result, God granted him the reward of Briti Shalom, a covenant of peace, and it should by for him and his descendants after him. He changed, by the way, his whole family's dynasty, because now all his descendants will now be Kohanim, right? Because they had the Brit Kuhunat Olam. They had the covenant of Kuhuna forever. From the wording of this pasuk, it seems that the main reason he merited the reward of Briti Shalom, the covenant of peace, was because he turned my anger, as God says, Heshiv et chamati ma'al b'nei Yisrael. He turned away my anger from the children of Israel so that I shouldn't destroy the b'nei Yisrael. Ve'ena muvan. We don't understand. Because the whole idea of turning God's anger from the Israelite and preventing them, God from destroying them, is something that we find by Moses. Not only once, but many times. And the Torah says it clearly. If so, what is unique by Pinchas that he specifically was granted this reward of Briti Shalom, of the covenant of peace, and not Moses? Where do we see that Moses? Which instances did we see that Moses literally saved the Jewish people from God's anger, from God destroying the Jewish people? So the most famous one is when the Jewish people served the golden calf, right? And Moses broke, which we just I wouldn't say celebrate, just fasted. We just fasted for that reason, where Moses broke the second tablets, right? Because it says that after that sin of the golden calf, of the Jewish people committing idolatry, Moses went up to God 40, and don't forget, this is just literally 40 days after hearing God's word himself saying, do not serve other gods than me. And God was deeply disappointed. And what did he tell Moses? Let us start, me and you, with another nation. But what did Moses do at that point? He stood up in prayer and he said, if you go ahead with such a thing, wipe me out. I don't want to have anything to do with you and your Torah. Right? And he on behalf of the Jewish people, he begged God to forgive them. Look at source number 8. Jeff, you do such a good job. And God said to Moses,
I have seen this people, and behold, they are a stiff-necked people. Now leave me be, and my anger will burn against them, and I will destroy them. Then I will make you into a great nation. But Moses pleaded before God and said, why, O God, should your anger burn against your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand? God then reconsidered the evil he had said he would do to his people.
right. And God then eventually forgave the Jewish people, which is the day of Yom Kippur, right? That's instant number 1. That was Moses saving the Jewish people from God's anger. Instant number 2, right? Most of the time, Jews complain. They complained against God. They complained against Moses. And when they had this time a specific grievance that there was no food or water, we could understand. But another time they complained for absolutely no reason. They were just bitter. Source number 9. The people were looking for a reason to complain, and it was evil in the eyes of God. God heard, and his anger flared. A fire from God broke out among them, consuming the outskirts of the camp. The people cried out to Moses. Moses prayed to God, and the fire subsided. Instance number 2. Once again, you see Moses coming to the Jewish people's aid and preventing the wrath of God. Right? Source number 10 tells us another story. What was the other story, which is going to we're going to be commemorating on Tisha B'Av, which was a terrible story, that the story of the spies, where all the Jewish people were swayed by this spies' report, and what they say to Moses, we want to go back to Egypt. God once again wanted to destroy the nation and start anew. Moses pleaded on the behalf and brought forgiveness. Source number 10. God said to Moses, how long will these people provoke me? How much longer will they not believe in me, despite all the signs that I have performed and shown them? And God says, I'm going to strike them with a plague, and I'm going to wipe them out, and I'll make another nation greater and mightier. And Moses said to God, please, slach no la'avon hazeh k'gadol chesdecha. Forgive them, you all have abundant kindness, and you have carried these people from Egypt until now. Don't give up on the people. And God said, salachti kidvarecha, right? Which is something we say on Yom Kippur. So 3 times, 3 examples, says the Rebbe. We don't find that Moses received this kind of reward, Riti Shalom, and for his descendants. And not only that, we don't find it. On the contrary, what happened to Moses' descendants? We find that God specifically withheld this form of reward from him. The sages explain, later episode in this week's portion, there was one request, that personal request that Moses, actually 2 personal requests that God, after everything that Moses had done, he had 2 personal requests. And you know, he never got them, either of them. The first well-known request was to enter the land we're going to learn. He pleaded with God 515 times to let him go into Israel. And God said that he has to stop asking, because this is what it's going to be. And what was the second personal request? Do you know? Was that his children be his successor. And God didn't grant him that. Look at what the sages say. Moses asked of God, may God appoint someone over the community. His intention was that his own son should inherit this position of honor. But God did not agree. Instead, he said, Kach lecha et Yehoshua ben Nun. Yehoshua wasn't his son, he was his student. Because, meaning that Moses' position was not placed down to him. So not only didn't he get the reward, he specifically did not get what Pinchas got, a reward for him and his family. Moses never got that for his sons. Now, why is a different question. Okay, why didn't it follow into Moses' sons or etc.? It's a different discussion. But with regards to our conversation is, if Pinchas was rewarded this because he turned God's anger and he saved the Jewish people, Moses did that 3 times. Right? Look at the Midrash. The Midrash says in source number 11 that this is a moment for me to demand my needs, Moses said. Why did Moses specifically ask of God why at that time? Because at the end of our parsha, we're going to read a story where the daughters of Tzalachat, we know that the tribes got land. They divided all the land of the into the tribes. The land had to remain in the tribe, so the land went to the family of that tribe. And every family in that tribe got a designated lot, piece of land. And then the land, until much later, always was in tribes. Okay? So the daughters of Tzalafchad came with a query to Moses and said, it's not fair. Our father never had any sons. So why should his land go to a different tribe? Because he doesn't have son. It should remain and should come down to us and remain in this tribe. And that's in fact what happened. So Moses saw at that point that it was a time, and after he saw that happen, he said, what about my children? And that's why he asked of God for the next leader. And God says it will not go to your children, will go to Yeshua. Right? So again, the number one question is, what is different from Pinchas and Moses? Why was Pinchas granted this reward and not Moses? Whereas Moses saved the Jewish people 3 times and pacified God, in a sense, if you want to call it like that his anger should not go towards the Jewish people. So the Rebbe answers a fascinating answer and something that is applicable to each and every one of us. And he says there are some differences in the way Moses acted and the way Pinchas acted, which makes Pinchas unique. In Moses' case, yes, it's true that he turned back God's anger. How? By praying to God, by asking God for his mercy. His prayer and Moses' prayer was so high, so special, that he caused the decree against the Jewish people to be canceled. Whereas Pinchas, when there was a great decree against the Jewish people, did Pinchas just stop and pray? No. He went in a very different way. He went in his own zealous act. And especially as emphasized in the phrase, when he avenged me against them, meaning it was through his act that made the people atone for their sins. In other words, Moses prayed to God to annul the decree. Pinchas, so he turned to above, right? Pinchas didn't turn above. What did he do? He arranged it all from below. He did action down here. He was through his bold action that awakened the Jewish people. It was he did the groundwork. He got his hands dirty, right? He took responsibility. And that's what made the people repent. Moses stood up for the Jewish people at the point of sacrifice. It's true, Moses had self-sacrifice, and he stood up for them. He even told God, if you don't forgive them, erase me from the Torah. That was self-sacrifice. But Pinchas wasn't just sacrifice by mouth, self-sacrifice by verbiage, but self-sacrifice by actuality. He actually put himself in tremendous danger. He put his own body, his physical life in danger. It actually says that the tribe of Shimon, when they worked out that why he was really going was to kill the son of Zimri, was they wanted to kill him. And he was saved. He was saved only through a miracle. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that Moses wouldn't have done self-sacrifice himself, like we found by Pinchas. It's just that it doesn't mean that Moses wasn't willing to do self-sacrifice, but Moses, the reason he didn't do self-sacrifice is that it was never called for by Moses, right? Whereas Pinchas, it was that he arose at the moment. He arose to the moment. And Pinchas knew exactly what he was walking into. He knew that this entire tribe was steeped in idolatry, was steeped in immorality, and they were trying to legitimize it all the time. And he knew very well that they would rise up against him and kill him. And yet he still did it. He didn't hesitate. He didn't make calculations. He didn't say, well, maybe we should get all the leaders together and reprimand them, etc., etc. He went, he knew the danger, he took the danger head on, and he killed him. And of course, the fact that we don't find it by Moses means that Moses didn't put his physical life, he put his spiritual life on the line. Doesn't God for mean that he wasn't willing, but certainly if it would have called for him to have done it, he would have done it. But the reason we didn't experience that situation was because, and that's another life lesson, it wasn't his. If it wasn't his journey, that wasn't what he was called upon to do. Everyone has different journeys. So why was it that Moses acted in a way that was more from above to below, right? That he looked above, he prayed to God, and which in turn forgave the Jewish people, whereas Pinchas's way was from below to above. He did the ground action, which turned the Jewish people to get anointed. So the Rebbe explains the explanation. The practical difference, the explanation of the difference between Moses' form of divine service and that of Pinchas is as follows. Moses served in a way that flowed from above to below through the revelation of divine life. Pinchas, by contrast, served in a way that moved from below to above, refining the lower world and raising it upward. This is why Moses' primary role was the journey of Moses' soul, that he should receive the Torah from above, from Sinai, and transmit it below, from above to below. He taught Torah to the people. The Torah protects the people from negative influences. The manner of the Torah is the life. He took from above and he gave it as a protection he gave them the Torah. The Torah protects us. The Torah teaches us what forces to turn away from, what positive things to do. That is the divine life from working from above that protects us, that darkness is pushed away. Pinchas stirred the people through action, through repentance, through doing. He broke through the darkness. He got his hands dirty. He went into the darkness. He went straight on. He took it on. He leading the people back to God. And this explains the two differences mentioned earlier of Moses' divine service and that of Pinchas. Moses, through his prayer of God, caused God to remove the decree against the Jewish people, a process that flowed from above to below. Pinchas, on the other hand, brought about the same result through his own actions, through the people's repentance, a process which moved from below to above. And that's why Moses, because his service was from above to below, his self-sacrifice was with his soul. Whereas Pinchas, whose whole mode was from below to above, he self-sacrifices with his body, right? And that is why they were challenged, by the way, in these two different ways, because that's their sole source, right? What is the practical difference between these approaches? Which approach is more accurate or is better? To go from above to below or from below to above?
Maybe from below to above, because it's more work and independent.
Oh, what's the difference, the practical difference? The practical difference, the Rebbe says, is when the process comes from above to below, the revelation is from the divine light. It's like when you get an inspiration. A lot of that time, that inspiration is not an earned inspiration. You go to the Rebbe's Ohel, you on fire, you feel blessed, you feel hopeful, you feel thing. You got something from above. In a way, it was a gift, but it was a free gift. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
Then in that moment itself, now you're able to illuminate your surroundings, take that light and illuminate with it. However, you haven't done the dirty work yourself, right? The lower realm hasn't been refined. It's possible, because that's what happened. You know what happens with inspirations? Once it's no longer there, right? And it dissipates, then it gets difficult, challenging, right? Once the light is no longer present, then it's not necessarily going to be long-standing. How many people come to shul Yom Kippur or whatever? They get all inspired. They're going to say, this year is different. Change this, take on this and that. The next day they're on the golf course and forget about Yom Kippur, forget about what happened yesterday, back to normal, right? Back to this is what happened. And in fact, that's what happened in the giving of the Torah. At the giving of the Torah, the people had the most inspiring. I mean, what can be more inspiring than hearing God himself? They had a spiritual purification. But how long-standing was it? Not very long, because 40 days later, they were able to do a sin of the golden calf. However, when the inspiration doesn't come from above, comes from below, comes from the lower realms being elevated, that kind of change, when it's coming from inner journey, the inner perspective, when you go and do your inner work, right? When you do, it's challenging. You get out of your comfort zone. You get in, you actually do the work, right? That kind of change is lasting. That is why the atonement that Pinchas brought about was not temporary. It was more enduring, right? The sages say he atoned for the Israelites. He still hasn't stopped. He continues. It says, Pinchas atonement continues till this very day, until Techiyat HaMesim. It says by Pinchas, you know what it says? Pinchas hu Eliyahu. Pinchas' soul was reincarnated in Eliyahu. Eliyahu still to this day comes to the Pesach Seder, comes to the Brit Milah. We don't even know where Eliyahu is buried because it says that he never died, right? It says that when it was time to come, his student saw him cross the sea, but they never buried him because it says Eliyahu still is bringing atonement to the Jewish people. He comes to every Brit Milah. He comes to the Seder. Because this is how everlasting. In fact, Eliyahu, there's a famous story. I'm not going to, time is not going to allow, but basically Eliyahu did the same thing. He brought the Jewish people back. There was a time when they were serving the idol, the Baal Peor, and they had a showdown basically, and he turned everyone back from idol worship to serving God. And and that's where, when we say in Yom Kippur, Hashem Hu Elokim, Hashem Hu Elokim, comes from when this whole time when they what happened with Eliyahu, the Jewish people after this whole incident then turned around and said Hashem Hu Elokim, right? So and it says Pinchas is still continuing to bring atonement and that to the people. So that is why the Briti Shalom, that covenant, was specifically to, and the gift that it would go down to all his descendants was specifically Pinchas, not to Moshe, because Pinchas turned God's anger away in a way that was lasting. There was uninterrupted. And that's what happens when we transform ourselves from below, right? The reward is given. The reward, God always rewards us. Midah keneged midah, measure for measure. Just like Pinchas turned the Jewish people from not just that generation, for generations later, his reward was that for generations later, he was still rewarded this covenant. Sima, what is the Torah? What is the lesson for us? So you read the Rebbe's words, the practical lesson.
What page?
On page 14.
This is,
The practical lesson. Yes.
oh, sorry. The practical lesson from all this is as follows. There are people whose entire focus is on the spiritual, Torah study, prayer, and so on, but are not committed to working with the physical side of life, making sure that the body and material aspects are also filled with holiness. Or more broadly, a person might serve God in every area of their personal life, not just in spiritual matters, but even in physical needs and in their share of the world. Yet they remain within their own private space and do not engage with others or with the outside world. It's important to understand that this kind of inward focused service is not always sustainable. While the person may feel uplifted when involved in spiritual matters, when they come into contact with worldly matters, they might not only fail to elevate them, but actually get dragged down by them, bringing them to a more materialistic state.
Okay, this applies.
On a broader scale as well, when someone remains in their own protected space, everything may seem complete. But if circumstances force them to engage with the outside world, that world can potentially pull them down from their spiritual level. Therefore, a Jew is required to not only work on their own inner spiritual growth, but also to engage with the world around them, even with the lowest, most distant parts, so that they too become receptive to the values of Torah and its teachings.
So that is the aspect. Number one is that we can't just focus on the spiritual side. We have to have it, our Torah and our spirituality and our lessons. It has to evolve every aspect of our life. We have to bring it into every aspect of our life, right? And in addition to that, not only that, is that even if we do on a whole, we live a Torah way and we in every aspect of our life, but we do it in our own comfort zone. We do it privately, and we say we don't take it to the outside world. that's also not long lasting, because unless you give in, right, and unless you're sharing, you're going to lose it. And and when you lose it, sometimes it could even be worse. So that is the lesson from Pinchas. Is that we got to take and that's the takeaway, that no fear, that's the strongest message, is, and the Rebbe said this, that Pinchas teaches us that true change doesn't always come from the leaders, the inspiration from above, the establishment, from God, from the rabbi, from the Rebbe, from the this, from the that. Sometimes the real transformation comes when we act, not because we are told to, not because we have to, but because it's coming from our inner truth, our inner side. And that takes work, right? And that was Pinchas's power. He wasn't told to do it. It was no explicit commandment. And he didn't wait to be told either, right? He felt the situation. He knew in his heart that this needed to be stopped, and he acted, right? And that is the amazing change that comes from below to above, is that when a simple person, Pinchas was a simple grassroots person. He wasn't a Kohen. He was in the family of Aaron, but he wasn't the Kohen, right? And that small act, and perhaps that's the strongest message, is, and the Rebbe said this to someone: if you see something that needs fixing, right, that is God's way of telling you that is your mission, right? That is your work to do.
Don't wait to be
Don't
told
wait
what to do.
to be told to do. Don't say, oh, look at this. No one's doing anything. You do something, buddy.
Yeah.
Start with yourself, because that's where change happens. Change happens from yourself. If it bothers you that much, if it touches your heart that much, then do something.
Nice.
All right? Shkoyach.
Skoya. Very nice.
Shkoyach. Yeah.
We should go.
Charles, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. Genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, right?
All right.
100%. All right, have a great week.
Thank
All right. You too. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.